Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for an oral history interview for the Virginia Museum of History and Culture's exhibit, A Better Life for Their Children, Julius Rosenwald, Booker T. Washington, and the 4,978 Schools That Changed America. My name is Tanya Meredith, the oral historian. Please state your name and the school that you attended.
My name is Michael Scales, and for the first 5 grades of my life, I attended Pine Grove School.
Could you please tell us about your family, your parents, and if you had any siblings?
Yes, my father's name is Mr. Robert L. Scales. He has been in Cumberland since 1949, but he was originally from Henry County, in the city of Martinsville, just outside of Martinsville. He came here shortly after he graduated from Virginia State University, and his first teaching job was here in Cumberland. He's resided here the remainder of his life. My mother's name is Mrs. Betty Gillum Scales. She is a resident throughout her life, both being late, of Cumberland County.
Okay. And any siblings?
Yes, I am the oldest of 4 children by my parents. Next to me would be my sister Patricia D. Scales, my brother Jeffrey C. Scales, and my sister Rita L. Scales Mayberry.
And you were born here in Cumberland County?
I was.
Born here, okay.
I was.
Okay. Mr. Scales, could you please tell us any childhood memory that you have growing up in the area?
Being it's a rural area, I consider our family rural but not farmers. But my dad raised a garden, so going out to pick string beans, corn, squash, watermelon. Wasn't a real huge garden, was enough to know it was enough. He was going to be sweating when you finished. So it was no doubt we were rural. We could go take walks, and actually there was a dirt road behind. It's now paved, but there was actually a dirt road that was behind our house. But we lived on a main thoroughfare, which was Route 60, which was the first intercontinental highway in the United States from east to west. So we lived on, it was no doubt it was rural and quiet, and you could play outside easily, take walks. Because what we would do also, we enjoyed going to Richmond. And for us, going to Richmond even today, it's about 40 miles, but it's a trip that we would take at least once a week, if not more than that. Certainly on Saturdays. My mother would take us down there for dancing schools.
Interesting.
Yes. So playing outside, playing games, being outside from as long as I joke now. Now you have to make kids go outside. Back then, our folks would have to make us go inside. You just want to stay out there and play as long as you can. Even long enough to start catching lightning bugs that would come out when it got dark. You don't even see many now. Now, I will have to admit that I lived in an area that was a lot of poverty. Not dire poverty, just I would say my family being a family of teachers. My dad was a principal, my mother was a teacher, and my dad became a principal. My grandmother also lived with us. So I always considered us middle class. Lived in an area, it was a farming area, a lot of agriculture, pulpwood cutting. And if people didn't work there, they would have to travel to Farmville, Virginia, or Richmond, but the farming being primarily tobacco raising and raising of cattle, things like that. So definitely I was a country boy, rural area, and surrounded by wonderful folks that a very strong agricultural base. My uncle had actually a shop where he would take livestock and slaughter them. And again, don't think of a fancy. It was definitely a homemade slaughterhouse. So it's that type of setting, the background. That's my remembrance of my childhood, at least when I'm not in school.
What year did you attend the school, and how many years did you attend?
Right. I started school in 1959, first grade. I continued here until the school closed in 1964. Had the school not been closed, I would have been coming here. I was through the fifth grade. I would have been coming here another 2 years, up through the seventh grade. This was a one-room school, even though it has 2 rooms, but it was 1 room for classroom, and there was 7 grades. And after that, I would have anticipated going, as everybody else did, going to Luther Porter Jackson High School.
So for school, can you please tell me what a typical class day was like?
Typical class day was the teacher arriving and the students being there, having some of them having come by bus and many of them having walked. And they'd be out playing. We'd be out playing, and the teacher would get settled inside and get set up for the day, put things on the board that need to be put up, because actually, after all, she'd be getting ready to teach 7 grades. So you can imagine her preparation that was needed. And once she got things prepared, we'd be outside playing different games, hopscotch, tag, dodgeball, baseball, all kinds of things. Softball, not baseball, softball. Then we'd know that school was starting when she'd ring the bell. And one of those bells that the teacher holds up, and that was the time to come on in. And so we would race in to the school and have our, if we had coats, there was a cloakroom there, which I think I showed you just before you come into the classroom. Put your coat up. If it wasn't cold, you come on in and get your books from the book table where the books were kept, and you go to your assigned seat. Now, before we started studying, though, that was because we were coming in to save time to get your books. But before we did any studying, it was always a time of devotions, which was really a fun time, an uplifting time of music, prayer, scripture, recitation. Really fun time, lively. People would take turns being the song leader. Now, it was a teacher that taught us the songs, but after a while, the older students would know the songs because they could conduct the devotions. So it was a very special time, uplifting. We enjoyed singing. We loved to sing. That was also part of my education too, talent. It wasn't just academic. It was definitely academic. It was well-rounded. And it's kind of hard to keep saying the teacher, because the teacher was my mother. My mother was a teacher. She had attended Shaw University, and out of Shaw University, she was hired here in 1954. But I'm going to refrain from that. I'm going to say the teacher would make sure that we had a lively devotions, which I'm so glad she did. And many of us sing to this day. So then, of course, it was time to start the academics. And so whatever we had not picked up, the teacher would pass out whatever work she'd have for each grade, because each grade would have different work to do. And the way it was 3 subjects in the morning and 3 subjects in the afternoon. So we did have the basic subjects. I don't remember which one she'd start off with, but that would be a subject, and all of us would be working on the same subject, being that the younger ones could learn from the older ones. Well, it might be more advanced math, but you could be hearing about more advanced math even though you're in the first grade. And I think it was a helpful part of education, and it also inspired you. You wanted to get to the point where you didn't just have to add 1 plus 1, but you could be doing maybe a little algebra or geometry or higher math. Also, it was good also because the older students could be called upon to be as student teachers. So that's how each grade would be studying the same subject, but different classes, different assignments. She started with the lower grades, and then teach them the work, show them how to do the work, and tell them to proceed on, do some more in the book, and then she would come back. So she'd go to each grade in that manner. Again, if in the process some student needed help, then she would call the seventh graders who also had their work. They were working on their work as well. Everybody was working on something. Nobody was just sitting around waiting for the teacher. That's another, I think, wonderful feature of having been to a one-room school like this, is that it taught you independence. It taught you your own integrity. You're here to learn. Just because the teacher's not teaching you, find some work to do. Be creative. Desire to learn. Desire to want to do more. You did your assignment, want to go further in the book. And so I found myself often doing that. Sometimes I had to ask for another book because I went through the one that was given. So that's how it would be for each subject. Then it would be lunchtime. So for lunchtime, put our books away, and everybody had brought their lunches in a bag. There's no cafeteria here. Everybody brought their bag lunches. There was water that would be back there. Sometimes the teacher would make some Kool-Aid, or people brought their different things from home to drink. Now, my mother, somehow, she managed to have a Coke machine. Maybe because she really liked Coke, but many of my years here, there was a Coke machine back there that you could buy a Coke for 5 cents. So, and that's when you found also the sense of community in my mother's heart. Many times she would buy the sodas for the students if the parents couldn't afford it. Again, we had a lot of poverty. So most of the time we had sodas. Mom would make sure. I mean, there was water back there, but she would make sure that everybody had a soda if they couldn't afford it. So then it would be time for lunch, for a break. And we'd go out and have a good, healthy recess. Now I'm trying to think. Now, excuse me. Recess would be before lunch, which was great. You're really not supposed to run on a full stomach. And I don't know if that was her motivation, but having studied hard, we were excited to go outside and play hard. And we kind of felt like we deserved it. We had been studying for various hours. So yeah, definitely recess was before lunch. And it was like an incentive. We took it. Had lunch, and then after lunch, it was time to study some more. Now, for the real youngest ones, my mom had blankets. They could lay down and take a nap. She felt that they needed, and they did. The young ones, I think even now in elementary school, they give them nap time. So the very youngest ones, first and second graders, would have to take a nap. Then the other 3 subjects be done in the afternoon. So that's a typical day. But also, and again, I was just a first through the 5th grader. There were many times that we had extracurricular activities, in which we were learning songs, we were learning poems, we were writing, not just doing skits, writing skits, performing skits, practicing for skits. I don't know if the other Rosenwald schools did, but that was just. I think they were all of it. You know, you learn to be well-rounded. So much of the education was academic, but also was extracurricular.
Okay. Do you remember the school books and the condition that they were in?
Yeah, you do remember that because they were hand-me-downs. They were torn up. Many of them didn't have backs. Some of the pages were missing. There would be graffiti in there, and some of vulgarity and things like that. Yes, yeah.
At the time, did you know that they were hand-me-downs from the white schools?
Yeah. And sometimes there were messages left, directed to what we would call colored then. The message directed to us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did, but we were interested in being educated. We were interested in being educated, and so whatever pages were missing, we read with somebody else, you know, learn to write, use the books as they were. There was no complaining. And also because my mother was a very positive person. While you're complaining, you could be learning. So there was no room for that with her.
Did you have a principal at this school?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Can you tell me about him? Do you remember?
I just have.
That she was a principal too?
Yes.
Your mother was a principal?
She was the principal. She was the janitor.
Oh,
She was the nurse.
Wow.
She was the dietitian.
Wow. How did she handle discipline? Or did she have to? Was that not a problem because she maintained control pretty good? Or how was discipline handled?
Yeah, because she was a disciplinarian, she had set the culture of the school. So we knew that we should do as we're told. But basically we wanted to. Nobody really wanted to cut up it so much.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you're foolish enough to want to, your mind would be changed pretty soon. But no, discipline really wasn't. It was a lot of, again, not like in a prison and not like you're stifled. It was just, we had a culture of learning and creativity and exchange and discipline. It was just a culture.
Good. She was the only personnel on site.
Yes.
One person.
Right. I forgot to tell you, she's also the fire maker.
Yes.
Sometimes a young man she would pay him to come and start the fire might be sick. Mm-hmm. So we'd get here, and you think this is, she'd have to make the fire.
So what types of chores were the boys expected to do and the girls expected to do?
The guys were bringing in wood, cleaning out the stove. You need to clean it out, dusting the erasers. Anything needed to be moved around. And the young ladies did more of the cleaning, sweeping, that type of thing. Okay.
So the school was heated in the winter by wood?
By wood. Yes. Okay. In fact, you see the pipe over there now. You see the remnant of it. It was like a potbelly stove. Okay. And yes, so my mother was also took care of the heating for the facility as needed.
And did you have indoor bathroom facilities at the time?
No, we didn't.
So you had. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Did you have an outhouse or what type of?
Yeah, we had outhouses.
Okay.
We had outhouses. The very good distance between the guys and the girls. No problem with privacy. Plus, it was down in the woods, as we would say, and so the girls tend to be on this side of the school, and the guys were on that side. Interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
I also make a joke. We didn't have bathrooms, even though we had running water. Mm-hmm. That seems strange. Well, the reason is, I say we had running water because we'd have to run to the creek to get it, and run from the bull, Mr. Scott's bull, many times.
That was down there at the
yeah.
Oh.
Yes. So no, but we did not have running water, so we did not have bathrooms, and we didn't. So we'd have to bring buckets of water. That's another thing that she had to make sure was taken care of. That tends to be a guy's chore too. Okay. Now my sister takes offense. I don't remember the girls doing it often, but my sister, who also attended here, she's a year younger than me. She says the girls would do it sometimes. So, yeah.
Okay. You said that you brought your lunch from home. Do
yes.
you remember what types of lunch did you have? What did you guys eat for lunch?
Well, mostly we had bologna sandwiches.
Okay.
Yeah, bologna sandwiches, fried chicken. And we'd make a joke. You could tell someone had fried chicken because the little brown paper bag would have a big grease spot on it. So whatever they'd had leftovers from home, pork chop or sausage or whatever they would bring from home.
Okay. And you mentioned special days and extracurricular activities. Did you guys have carnival they call May Day?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you tell me about
Yeah,
May Day?
yeah. But the activities were not necessarily related to May Day. We would have things throughout the year, such as skits, spelling bees, plays, things like that, talent shows. So just like extracurriculars was not just for May Day. It was throughout the year that my mother would have those. But the highlight of the year and toward the end of the year was May Day. Yes, May Day is where you invite the community in, and you have the parents get a chance to see the games the kids play and different projects they may have made. Again, using that back room to build things for the parents to see. And many of those things, the teacher had to finance the wood and the nails or the cardboard were paid for. Now, I will say this though, these were also fundraising events. So these talent shows, spelling bees were also fundraising. So it was a win-win. It wasn't all on the teacher, but that was with her initiative and creativity. It was a win-win. So her kids got to do extracurricular things, but also brought in some income, got the families involved in the community. So May Day was a culmination of that, all of that. There was food. Families would bring food to share with everybody like a smorgasbord. And the real highlight of the event was the May Day pole, which I think across the United States they had May Day. So the pole was there. That's another thing the teacher had to make sure it got done. I've never saw my mother out there digging, but she would have to find somebody, local gentleman, to come and find the pole and dig the hole and put it up. And because she would bring the things that would wrap the poles, she wouldn't have to do that because she had up to 7th graders, so we had some 12 and 13-year-olds that could climb the pole and put the things up there that need to be put up there. Okay. But May Day was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Again, because there's so much community.
Right.
Everybody here.
What school did you attend after you left Pine Grove?
I attended Luther P. Jackson.
Okay.
And it was the reason I hesitated, it would have been Luther P. Jackson High School because I would have gone here through the 7th grade and then started the 8th grade. But I say consolidated was because after my 5th year, all of the Rosenwald schools, which had been like feeder schools prior to that, started with 8th grade. But they were closed. In 1964, they built a very nice elementary part and middle school and attached it to the high school. So it became the Luther Porter Jackson Consolidated School, grades 1 through 12. But it was an improvement physically. Again, from, as you can see now, a wooden school. 1, 2, it was brick and mortar, running water, fountains, bathrooms, and they're still being used now. They're using them for office buildings. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it was a modern school we went to.
Okay. At the time when you were going to school, what did you think of the education that you were getting, and what do you think of it now?
Well, I thought I was getting a wonderful education then, and as I look back, I thought it was even better now. I look upon it even with greater how my mother was able to accomplish so much, and the other teachers, and the success stories of all of them. Most of us gone on to college. Those who wanted to go, graduate school and beyond, and also I will also say when I did go to they did have integration. I had no problems whatsoever academically. So I was regularly on the honor roll. A lot of people say that's because your parents were teachers. No, our parents never helped us. They said, well, what do other students do? But we really didn't ask. I guess, I don't know, it's part of the nature of our family. So it wasn't because our parents were teachers. And we had some extremely smart people. Their folks were farmers, but extremely smart, became lawyers, CEOs of companies. So again, it has nothing to do with our parents being teachers, just some bright students that were here, and they obviously got a good education because they went on to be very successful. I don't know, my mother had developed a culture not only of discipline, but of wanting to enjoy learning. So I'm not saying we were giddy learning, but you felt a sense of pride that you were learning, and it was fun. It wasn't a task or a chore. Yeah. So you didn't really measure, not certainly the fifth grade, the quality of it. I mean, but looking back, you know you would enjoy, you know you were learning, you enjoy learning, and again, from the hindsight, looking back, obviously it was quality education because of the results that it produced in me and others.
So we know that this was a time of segregation.
Yes.
And I watched the news, I watched the interview that was done with the 700 Club. And Ms. Muriel mentioned that there were times when kids would taunt you guys, say nasty things. Do you have any experiences of similar situations at that time from the white community and their reactions to the school being here?
Not so much while I was here with the Rosenwald School, but those are the ones that were walking. And they had to walk through areas, and in the rural areas, you know, you have black and white side by side, so it's very easy for a local farmer to say things, you know, as you're walking by. See, I was in my mother's vehicle, so I didn't experience it, but I would hear about it, yes, and it would sadden me, you know, again, Muriel being a little older generation, but yeah, they. But the ones in my generation as well, they experienced being reminded that they were second-class citizens and not being told very nice things based on their race. Now, where I did experience it, when I was one of the first African Americans to go to what was considered the white school, and it was first 3 years was voluntary. It was an experiment, and I think there was perhaps a desire to discourage us, so that it made it pretty rough for us racially. You know, if we stopped, you know, didn't want to go, then it was kind of shut down integration. So we had some tough times. I hadn't anything physical, but I had a friend, I didn't realize he played basketball with him. He actually had a young man that pulled a knife on him. And he was scuffling, and he got the knife away from him, and he said he has still the pair of pants that the young man cut trying to stab him. So fortunately, I didn't have that, but there were some individuals that had the physical exchange, had to, you know, fight, or someone kept messing with them, and so it eventually resulted in a fight, yeah.
So I know you mentioned previously about the success of many of the Rosenwald students who went on to become the CEOs. And so what do you think of the efforts that are being made right now to preserve the legacy of the Rosenwald, Washington, Tuskegee schools? What do you think of those efforts?
I think it's immensely important because it shows that when community works together, they can accomplish, go against great odds. And the odds now of restoring this building is not nearly as daunting as it was back then, where you had to build a school and acquire the land and get the materials for the building. So comparatively, you know, this is a much less daunting a task. I said daunting a task, but it's an example of. We can use them as an example to us to press on against the odds. And it's going to take a lot of money to restore this building and a lot of effort. But again, if they built it, why can't we restore it? You know, I think that's a great lesson for our young people that's coming up now. In terms of preserving history, there are efforts now to cover up history, to pretend that certain things didn't happen, and that it's it's a critical race theory and this type of thing. So I think it's very important for us also to reinforce the African American history and not allow this building to just deteriorate and be in maybe 20 years don't even know it was here. So that's another thing because of the movement to try to cover up history.
Thank you so much for participating in this oral history interview.